Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pets, People, Life, and Longevity. I am Jan Jeremias, and I'm here with my canine companion, who's actually sacked out on the sofa at the moment, Tonka. So a little bit about me. I'm a trained scientist who began exploring holistic and alternative healing about 18 years ago. I began my journey with the use of essential oils and began exploring modalities such as Reiki, gentle massage, and energy work. For pets, yes, pets. And I also work with people. I'm the co-author of the top-selling essential oil book for animals called Spoil Your Pet, A Practical Guide to Using Essential Oils in Dogs and Cats. And today, I'm so excited to welcome Johann Callaghan. And let me tell you, these are the moments I love technology because Johann's in Ireland and I'm here, and yet we get to share and work together and collaborate and stuff. So it's always so much fun. So let me share a little bit about Johann. Johann's a certified sleep science coach and health coach. She's appeared many times in the media, radio, podcasts, TV, magazines, and newspapers, and is an award-winning entrepreneur. She helps to educate, inspire, and empower people to take control of their lives and live a healthy lifestyle with better sleep through online courses, webinars, corporate talks, group coaching programs, seminars, and live interviews. Johann is also the host of the Empowering Family Health podcast, and she believes everything is better with better sleep. And I'm also in total agreement.
Absolutely.
So, Johann, share with us a little bit about your path and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, so a lot of people ask me, why sleep? Why are you so interested in sleep? Well, first of all, I've had my own experiences of not being able to sleep well, through the course of my life. And, our sleep cycles change as we progress through life. When I was young, my father drank quite a lot. He was an alcoholic. So we'd many nights, sleepless nights. Okay. And I'd go into school the next day exhausted. And, that transitioned through to when I was working. And I remember going into work absolutely exhausted. And I was even driving at one point, and driving, it can be lethal when you're sleep deprived. It's actually really dangerous. It's like driving while under the influence of alcohol. It's the same blood alcohol content, the same equivalent. And then progressing, when I got married, my husband had sleep apnea. And sleep apnea is a disorder, and that was for years, and I didn't even realize what sleep apnea was until years later. So for years I put up with all this snoring, really, really bad snoring. So again, lots of sleepless nights, and my health suffered as a consequence. I was more vulnerable to colds and flus. As a result, my immune system was down. I couldn't concentrate. I was irritable, all that sort of stuff. And I eventually, in 2007, we had a baby together, and my baby died. And she died on the day that she was due. So it was a very tragic circumstance. But I went downhill. I went through the whole grieving process like anybody does, and you're not supposed to lose your children really before yourself. So I met a spiritual lady many years later. And basically, she taught me all about, loving myself again, and been a bit easier with myself. I was so hard on myself, how to really take control of my life again. But what I got, Jan, and this changed the whole trajectory of my life, and brought me onto the path of sleep, was I realized, Jan, that we individuals are so powerful beyond what we even realize. And I was just wowed by this, and I decided that I was going to go on this path of empowering people and helping people understand why they're being the way they're being, and also to bring sleep into it as well. And when I started my journey down the holistic path, I started doing massage and Reiki and all of that. And then my mentor told me, Johann, you got to write a book to really make yourself credible. And I didn't know what to write my book on, but I identified a lot of people were tired. They were exhausted. They'd no energy, right? So I wrote the book on sleep. And it was through the process of writing that book on sleep that I realized how powerful sleep is. It affects us on every single level of our health and well-being. And that was when I decided I've got to speak about sleep, because this is one of the major health pillars. As far as I'm concerned, yes, diet, nutrition, exercise, that's all very important. But if we're not sleeping, we are not healing and growing. And that's a very, very important part of our health and well-being. So that's to answer your question, Jan. So that's why I'm doing the work that I'm doing today.
Love it. Yeah. And I personally, I don't know if I know of anybody. I think my mother is the only person I know who very rarely has any trouble sleeping and always has. I know myself, I've gone through periods where I used to sleep and a bomb could have gone off and I wouldn't have heard it. And then everything shifted, and now like a pin can drop, and well, at points, but at certain points, like during the night, I know if a pin drops, I'll be up in a second. And then sometimes getting back to sleep is a challenge depending on, the evening. So it is. And I know for myself how I function when I don't get sleep. I always say it's like a baby that's, is fussy if they don't sleep. Like that's how I feel. I get cranky, I get weepy.
Yeah. It's one of the first things, like if you're in a household with other family members or whatever, and someone wakes up the next morning and they're cranky, the first thing you ask them is, God, did you not sleep well last night? We associate that with not sleeping well, because we know that you're going to be cranky or irritable, you're easily triggered. And the reason for that is because our emotional brain is more sensitive. It's very, very sensitive because and it's on more alert as well. We're more hyper vigilant as well because our body needs to be more alert because we're tired, you see. And this is one of the reasons why we can be so easily triggered. Like it just makes so much sense, Jan, but yeah, sleep really, it just impacts every single area of your life.
And I know there's a lot of conversations, and I've attended a lot of things on sleep hygiene and, proper environment for sleep, proper temperature. I have to say the one thing I'm diligent on is I cannot sleep if it's warm in the room. I'd rather be cold and snuggled up under the blankets rather than to be hot or warm, or it's really the stuffiness. Like I have to be able to breathe easily. And,
Absolutely.
So to me, that's the one thing. Other things, sometimes I think I'm a little bit lax with, but the temperature is like, oh gosh, has to be cool.
And the body needs it because the sleep hormone cannot, be released if it's too warm, because the body temperature, and it's the core body temperature has to be at, and it's only slightly, but it can make all the difference. But the core body temperature does have to be reduced. And our body temperature does fluctuate through the 24-hour cycle, this circadian rhythm. And at nighttime, it does reduce to enable the onset of sleep. And you mentioned as well, when with the breathing, you don't like it to be too stuffy. And that's really important as well, because when we lie down, through the nature of gravity, so many people have sinus issues. And if it's stuffy in the room, or we can get this sinus problems, leads to snoring, and oh my God, it's just a mess. Very good, very important. Yeah, very important to have good air quality in your bedroom and the temperature.
Yeah. So I know that I'm always thinking about pets, and I sleep with Tonka every night. And I think now I'm so used to sleeping with a pet that I don't know that I have a harder time sleeping without him, because I'm so used to him being there. And so maybe you can speak to sleeping with pets, and then also who sleeps with your new kitty? Who sleeps?
Yeah, we got a new cat. We got a new cat there a couple of weeks ago, and he's about 5 months old now at this stage, and he's a gorgeous ginger. He's just gorgeous. We used to always have dogs, but we opted for a cat this time. They're a lot more manageable, I think. But he doesn't sleep with us yet at the moment. He has been upstairs in the bedroom. He's very cheeky. He just wanders around, and he's just so playful. He's gorgeous. But sleeping with pets, a lot of people do sleep with pets. And it can be quite therapeutic. And there can be a very big difference of opinion when it comes to sleeping with pets. So ideally, sleeping with pets is like a little hot water bottle, isn't it? Right beside you. And there's something about animals are so loving, and they like to snuggle up beside you. There's an energy that pets give off, and we human beings are made of energy, right? And this is not woo-woo stuff. This is very, very real. We are energy before we are matter, before we are physical, right? And when we have an animal beside us, animals are very forgiving, Jan. They don't judge us, right?
Mhm.
Um, they just love us unconditionally. And unconditional love is very hard to come by, right? We might get it in fleeting moments from our partner or whatever, like we tend to have arguments or disagreements or whatever from time to time. But an animal is always there for you. They always love you. And this is what's so great. And then, being able to touch an animal, give, the stroking an animal, there is research that shows when you pet an animal, stroke, you're slowing everything down in your body. Just that therapeutic touch, right? You're slowing everything down in the body. So it's reducing that cortisol, which is our stress hormone. And this is great because this enables the onset of sleep so much more easier. There's loads of reasons why sleeping with a pet can be very therapeutic and help you to wind down. And maybe part of even if he doesn't sleep with you, if you spend time with your pet before you go to sleep, this therapeutic touch, this slowing down, it will help with this wind down routine. So I'm all on for sleeping with pets. What I would advise is if you suffer with allergies, to make sure you clean your room, ideally, having wooden floors maybe in your bedroom, or basically not carpet. Carpet can hold dust and pet dander. It's very important to open your window first thing in the morning, whether it's rain, hail, or snow, let in some fresh air. So that's really, really important. And clean your bedclothes frequently as well, because bed bugs are a real thing, and they actually poo in your so there is poo matter from these bed bugs. So this is why it's very, very important to clean your bed sheets very regularly. And if you do that and have a good discipline and keep your bedroom clean, you're minimizing those risks for allergies if you do tend to suffer. But overall, I am definitely on for sleep with pets.
It's so interesting how I've had pets that have slept with me. My last dog didn't. He would come to bed with me, and then when it was time for him to sleep, he would jump off and go to his bed. He wasn't going to sleep, and that's just the way she was, and she was always like that. Then I've had pets that have been constantly like that. I get in, I always invite them in because supposedly it's your territory and you want to kind of define the line. Cats are more challenging, but with dogs. So it's kind of like, he knows he's not allowed on until I invite him on. And that's usually once I've gotten a little bit settled, because he's so big. All of a sudden he'll get in and I'll be like, I have like a corner of the bed and he has the entire bed. And I'm like, Glenn, you got to move. Like, I need more space than this. So it is really funny. So he definitely, but it's gotten to be such a security thing. It is just to know he's there. And it's bizarre to me. Like when I travel a lot, I don't travel a lot anymore, but when I travel, usually I drop him off the day before I leave, because just to kind of decrease his stress about seeing the suitcases and whatever. And so
I know they're so intelligent.
Oh gosh, he's too intelligent sometimes. And he, and so that night that I'm alone, or when I travel and he's not with me, it's always so interesting because it feels so strange not to have him there in the bedroom with me. It's like that quiet, and there's something about it that I think when you're used to having them around,
and like they're really good security watchers. Like if we have a break-in in the house, or they protect you in that sense as well. Like and if there's somebody outside or whatever, hopefully that doesn't happen too many times. But it's just that sense of security, as you say. Do you know what I mean? And they're like your personal bodyguard.
Yes, yes, he is. Yes, he is. And so, what are some of your recommendations for people who have trouble sleeping?
Yeah, so you mentioned at the very beginning there, sleep hygiene is very important, and it is. So this wind down routine that we were talking about is super important because, our body runs in cycles all the time. So ideally, this circadian rhythm, many people would be aware of this 24-hour clock that we have running in our body, and two main hormones in our body can control that, they influence that, and that's our cortisol and our melatonin. So cortisol is our stress hormone that we're aware of, and we do actually need a little bit of that, and that's highest in the morning, and then melatonin is highest in the evening time. So the two of them work bidirectionally within this 24-hour. So in order for us to fall asleep easily at nighttime and stay asleep, we need to do this wind down routine. So sleep is not an on-off switch. It happens progressively. So we need to wind down, slow the nervous system down. So this is why stroking an animal can be very therapeutic. It slows down your blood pressure and your heart rate and your breathing and everything. And you can just really be present. And that's what's so important. See, when we're off in the future or thinking about something that happened in the past, it can be very stressful. This causes depression or anxiety. It can tend to, if we're ruminating, in that place. Whereas when we're present, if we're with a pet, whose unconditional love and this therapeutic touch, this can be a great part of our wind down routine. So winding down, sleep hygiene is very, very important, but that's not the only thing we can do. It's how we're managing our whole day, because I always say your sleep starts from the time you wake up in the morning time. And I have a morning routine. So I think the first hour of your day is super important because that sets you up for the day. So ideally, the less stress you have during the day can again help you with your wind down routine and to sleep deeply at nighttime. So spending the day with your pets, going out walking with your pets, having that companion, walking and exercise is so important, Jan, because you're getting outside, you're getting that daylight, which we absolutely need to help influence the circadian rhythm again that I was talking about. Also, those feel good hormones, the serotonin, all those things that we need that help us sleep better at nighttime and calm our nervous system as well. So exercise, getting the blood flow going. And again, if you're out there with your pet companion, you've someone to walk with. You're not alone. Do you know what I mean? So, so all these things are really important, and ways that you can help to enhance your ability to fall asleep naturally at nighttime.
I love that idea of basically starting that sleep starts when you get up in the morning. I never thought about it that way, but it does make a lot of sense. And the fact that, how you are during the day is going to influence how you are at night. And one of the things you said that really struck me is a lot of times when I have to be what I call on, like I have to present at night, or I'm busy at night, how much trouble I have going to sleep when I get home or when I get off a call, because there is this feeling of I'm exhausted, but yet there's that adrenaline rush or whatever that you've had from really, doing something well, or if you haven't, the whole ruminating of like what you could have done differently. And then all of a sudden you get in bed and you're like, I know I've got to sleep, but you're not sleeping.
Yeah, you're wired and tired. That's what it is. So you hit the nail on the head when you said the adrenaline, because when you're excited, and you feel you've achieved something really well or whatever, and of course, if we're presenting or doing anything like that, any kind of work, the adrenaline is going, the cortisol is going, and we need that to a certain extent because that gives us confidence and stamina, and it keeps us awake and alert, right? And that's how we're being when we're working, right? But the thing is, it's not ideal at nighttime because this is when we're supposed to be winding down and everything's supposed to be slowing down. And the other thing is, if we're on computers as well, the blue light has an impact on our circadian rhythm. So this all comes back to the circadian rhythm because, adrenaline, cortisol is supposed to be lower at nighttime. The blue light, we really need that. We do need blue light in the morning time, but not at nighttime, because our body thinks that it's daytime when you've got blue light coming into your eyes, and computers and mobile phones give off this blue light, so it mimics daylight, so your body's confused. Your body actually still thinks it's the middle of the day, so your hormones are all messed up. So again, this is back to the circadian rhythm. Everything fits into this circadian rhythm. There is timing for all our biological processes in our body and our hormones. So what I would suggest is, in relation to the blue light, is you can get some software for your laptop. For example, there's one called Flux, it's f.lux. So if you look that up, it's a free program. You can download it and install it on your computer, and basically it takes out the blue hues out of your the coloring in your screen according to your daylight times, which is very, very clever. And then on the iPhones, there's an automatic I forget what it's called, but it's an automatic one on your iPhone. And then you can get another one. There's other apps that you can get that will take that blue tone out of your mobile phone. So that's something you can do with the lighting. And then in terms of your adrenaline and cortisol, so to bring them down, you can do gentle exercises. So if you do, I remember having somebody who was desperate to get asleep, and he did 5K runs in the evening time. But then he was coming back home and his adrenaline was up and his core body temperature was up. So there was no way he was going to naturally fall asleep. He was exhausted, all right, but he was wired. So gentle exercise like yoga. Yoga is so powerful, Jan, because it brings in the breathing, and you're the yoga expert, Jan, as well. So, it brings in the breathing, and the breathing actually activates the rest and digest part of our nervous system, which is what we want to turn on for sleep at nighttime. So there's a couple of suggestions what you can do in the evening time.
No, I love it. The other thing I think about animals, that whole idea of lowering our blood pressure and everything, but also this really, to me, anchoring into the present moment.
That's it.
So because of part of the reason many people don't sleep, and I think we've all had this, that our brain is running, the thoughts are running like a mile a minute. And so your brain's going and it's kind of hard to shut off the noise, I like to call it, the noise of your brain. So those thoughts, I always like journaling, or what I call even brain dumping, because I feel like just empty your head and write down whatever is in there to try to get it out. But the other thing that I really find is that when I'm really truly present and spending time with my pets, there is this feeling of just like with the breathing and everything, the thoughts kind of quiet quite a bit. You don't have that mental dialogue going on as much.
That's great that you brought that up, Jan, because that's so true. Because for most people, when it comes to having difficulty getting sleep at nighttime, it's the brain. The brain has all these thoughts of everything that they need to do and they should have done, ruminating about something in the past, right? So you're in the past, ruminating, then you get all depressed or whatever, right? I'm not good enough, and so many of us judge ourselves, right? Or you may be in the future anticipating or catastrophizing about something, right? So this is where the anxiety comes from, the worry, right? And so many of us are worried financially, financial issues or whatever. And I love that you said with pets, because they bring us into the present moment, because the only place where pets are is right here in the now, because they don't have that ability to be ruminating, right? Pets they weren't wired that way, right? So by them being present, that we sync with them, we mirror them. And like, it is brilliant. It's one of the great things that you can do is be with your pet right before you go to bed, because it does it. And the research, and you've talked about this, Jan, as well, it really is a very powerful thing to do.
And so everybody who's having trouble, go out and get a pet. No,
rent
a pet or borrow a pet. Maybe they should start a service where you can rent a pet and then you could just borrow it for I always say, I've been thinking about getting another dog, and for Tonka, and I said, part of it is to help him with some stuff. And so I said, I'd love to do it, but part of me is like, if it doesn't work, I don't know that I want another dog at this moment. So I said, it would be really nice if I could just borrow a dog or rent a dog for a few weeks and test it out. I love dogs, but right now, I take very good care. I take very good care of my pets. And right now, financially, I don't really want another pet, but if it would help him, I'd get one. But it's interesting how much animals sleep.
Yeah. And what I love about animals, and we can learn a lot from animals, Jan, because if you ever see an animal during the daytime, if they're tired, they'll curl up in their bed and they'll go asleep. They're listening to their body, right? But we don't, as human beings. No, we got to have another cup of coffee, to wake us up, or stick our head out the window to get some fresh air, or for a drive in the car, we roll down the window to keep us awake, right? We totally disrespect our body. Our body has given us messages, but we're not listening to our body. So we can learn a lot from a dog, because a dog listens to its body. And if it needs a rest during the daytime, a little nap or whatever, it goes and does it, I understand that pets don't have to cook the dinner and all this kind of thing, right? Like we humans do. But the point is that they listen to their body. That's the whole point.
Yes, it's so true. They're very, if you have ever watched like having young animals and you now have your beautiful little kitten, is that they play really hard. It's like they are really active. They really play hard, but then they also zonk out. It's kind of like, okay, I'm done. And they just crash.
Yeah, it's so true. And like our little kitten, he's only 5 months old. And that's my daughter gone out with the kitten there now. It's just waving in the window to me. But he plays really hard, and he's so much fun. And he darts, and he's just so much fun. And then he just, when he's in that giddy humor, like, and he plays chasing with you as well, right? And then if he doesn't want to, if he's not in that giddy humor, that high energy, he'll just walk very slowly, and then he'll curl up or whatever. So the temperament, and it's like clockwork as well. You can just tell.
They also have this really ability, as I think about how we all tend to sleep, they'll curl up and they just kind of find a spot that's really comfy and kind of cocoon-like. And they just, zonk out. Like they'll just find this interesting little crevice in your house. I was at a friend's on Sunday, and she just got a cat a few months ago, and it's 4, but she didn't want a kitten. So, and it's so funny because I said, "Where is he?" And all of a sudden we looked, and he was in this little basket that had all these blankets piled at the bottom in a corner, kind of like, and sometimes they'll curl up so small, especially cats and kittens. I remember coming home, and it's like I couldn't find him, and I knew he was in the house, but I had no idea. It took me so long. Like I'm looking in closets and whatever.
Yeah. I've had that as well. And my cat has often gone missing. I push the chairs in under the table, so he can't get up on the chairs on the table, but he can jump up. But he's actually quite good now, I have to say. He doesn't do too much. But anyway, I do often find him underneath the chair, and I have the tablecloth over. So I come in and I don't know where he is, And another time I did find him in the washing basket in amongst the clothes, actually. That was so funny. Oh, it was so funny.
They do find these unbelievable places to hide. And one of the things is that when you do sleep with them, now my cats, I always limited my ability. I have a slight allergy to cats, and so I was told many years ago not to. When I moved, I went from a house with a lot of rooms to a 2-room apartment, transitioning into my new place, and I kind of felt bad locking him out of the bedroom because it was a new place. And so I did let him sleep on me or sleep with me, but then he would sleep on me. Like he would literally sleep on my chest. And I remember reading that it has something to do with the heart and the beat of your heart. And then I was always thinking of energy, like that heart energy, that love. It's like they're directly on you, which there's that double edge. It's great for them and great for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And another thing, I know you're involved in the essential oils that can help as well when it comes to allergies and clearing the air in the room. And it also so many of us are surrounded with static electricity, EMF from our computer devices, and essential oils can help with that as well. So it can be good to put 1 or 2 drops of eucalyptus, or because that clears all the sinus in the head and all that. And I know there are some, so you work with, you wrote the book, Jan. So essential oil, there are some essential oils you can use for animals as well. So that might be something that some people can do too.
Yeah, well, I always say, because I have diffusers in my home, essential oil diffusers, but when I put oils on Tonka, I always say I have a travel diffuser, because he walks right behind me and I'll be like, oh, okay, it's you. So it just walks with me and travels with me. So it's very funny. The other thing I know that we've chatted about, which I absolutely love, and that's our whole relationship with our pet, as far as like, I pretty much have had animals all my adult life, and then at points during childhood. But I think there's something about having a pet with children around. It's just, and I see how your daughter loves.
Total transformation, Jan. Total transformation. She's of age. And we had, I've always had dogs in my family home growing up, and like we just love dogs. But in the last few years, now we've had a dog, a border collie, and she died a good few years ago. We did try bringing new dogs since then, but they never worked out. They barked too loud, or there was problems anyway, eating the furniture, whatever. So I was like, oh God, I'd love to have an animal. And my daughter was pining for an animal, but I just didn't want to. I was losing it. Like the last dog that we had, he was only a puppy, and he was a lab, and he was just eating everything. So that's why we decided we'll get a kitten and see how that works. Well, Jan, she is transformed. Like, she's gone out to play with the kitten there. She brought the kitten out with her to play with her friends, and they just adore the cat. And then she lets him go off and do his thing, and he'll always come back to her. She'll be outside playing, and he'll always come back to her, and she brings him in when she comes in. And she has a little area set up outside for him to come to when he wants to come back into the house. It's just like, and it gives her responsibility as well, Jan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
she looks after him.
That's what I love. I think some of that responsibility and the care and the love that's required and giving it to another human being, an animal being. Yeah. There's just this element of being responsible for something else's well-being besides for yourself, and so I think there's a definite
and even financially, Jan, as well.
Exactly.
She pays for his food, and so like financially she's learned how to be responsible with money as well, and she has so much set aside, because that's what I said, that they were the conditions. Now I give her a little bit now and again, or I might buy him a cuddly soft toy or something like that, right? Because we do that. But she looks after all of that, which is great.
That is great. That's, I think, one of the first times I've ever heard that. Most people I know that have pets, their kids don't foot in the bill. I did have that conversation with my nephew, though, because he was thinking about getting a dog. And I said to him, you realize that it's expensive? And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, this is how much I spend on Tonka's food every week or every month. And he said, oh. And I think all of a sudden it registered, like, on a deep level, like,
yeah,
oh, that is a lot of money, depending on, obviously food quality and also any health concerns that they have, but they also, vet visits, like doctor visits and whatnot. Yeah. And even though there's a lot we can do for them ourselves, but we do have to take them to the vet. And so, so do you foresee any other pets in your future, or is this it?
Well, we have a budgie as well. And he's gorgeous. It's a little blue budgie, and he whistles to us. Like, he's very intelligent. I mean, you think a bird just sits in the cage or whatever. We let him out every now and again. We were challenged with the little kitten, right, with the bird, but he tends to he doesn't go near the birds so much, but we still have to be careful, because like the inherent kind of animal instincts and all the rest, right? Because cats do catch birds, right? So we let the bird out of the cage when the cat's not around or whatever. And but now sometimes he just sits beside the cage, because he knows, like, I don't know, I think cats can learn because there's certain things he doesn't do now that he used to do, right? So I believe cats can learn. Maybe they might be more challenging in some ways. But we have the cat, we have the bird, we have a fish.
So you're getting
I think the fish is anytime I have the fish, it's a big tank that we have, and it's in the kitchen. And anytime I go near the fish, tank, he comes up to the surface and goes mad. He's looking to be fed, because I'm the one who, I don't know, I think fish aren't, I know people say fish, they lose their memory every so many seconds or whatever. But this fish, like, anytime I come near the fish tank, he's up there and makes a little splash, like, anytime I come near him. But anyway, I'm just wowed by the intelligence of animals, no matter what it is. Like, we just underestimate, and we can learn so much, especially how they're so present as well. Like, I love it.
Yeah. And I do think that sort of like the species definition of cats, dogs, other animals, I think they do learn, because Tonka grew up with cats, and so cats are fine. I don't know if he misses them. He seems quite happy without them, but they used to curl up next to him, and it would be funny. Like, if he had enough, he would give a little growl, and they would be like, okay, like, he's had enough.
Yeah.
But one of the things it's always funny to me because I have a friend who has two dogs, but she was taking care of her daughter's cat. So the cat was there. And the cat was not used to big dogs. My friend has two small dogs, kind of, but Tonka couldn't understand why the cat didn't want to play. He was like, "Oh, it's a kitty. They're like my kitties." Like to him, I don't think he differentiates. Like, it was really funny. And the cat's like sitting there going like, she has two really tiny dogs. They're looking at him like, what is this giant thing? Because he's really big. And Tonka's like, I want to play, but he was like not having, he got to the point where he would like come downstairs and just wanted to be really high in a place where he knew he was safe and Tonka couldn't get to him. But it is really interesting how they can form bonds and cross species. Like they don't necessarily differentiate if they're in a house where that's all they've known. That's normal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, they're so playful, and that's what it is about animals, the playfulness in animals. Because as adults, when we look at this situation as adults, we're very serious. We've lost that playful childfulness in us, so we can actually learn a lot about fun and playfulness in animals. So that's another good reason to have an animal or a pet.
That's right. And I think the more we can express that, which is to me probably our truest nature, is all those things, the more healthy and the more I use this in quotes, kind of normal functioning we are. And I mean, just all our, like you said, all our cycles are in sync because we're actually gravitating or working toward our true nature. And that's always one of the things I find. And we've developed this lifestyle, which is not really necessarily conducive to health and well-being, because I always think of the winter months where we have shorter days and longer nights, and that really doesn't stop us from being out late at night or having to commute or whatever, just because that's how we live. But technically we should probably be more to the cycle of daylight, and so once it's dark outside, we're home.
Yeah. And I think what's gone wrong, Jan, in our world is, technology and computers have advanced so fast that like we are naturally able to adapt to new environments, right? But it's moved like way too fast for us to adapt, and we're constantly distracted. And we're taken away from this core being of who we are, and because of all the distractions around us, namely mobile phones. You look at kids in schools, every single one of them, they're on mobile phones. You see them walking home from school and their head is down and they're texting while they're walking. I mean, I see it all the time. So can you imagine who they're going to be when they're adults, right? So we're taken away from this presence, from being present, right? We're in the future, we're in the past, right? And I think that's what's missing. I think as human beings, and this is why we cannot sense ourselves, we cannot come home to ourselves, because we're so out here in the environment, we're reacting to what's happening out there rather than understanding who we are and being present. And this is why pets can help us with all like this is so powerful beyond what I can even explain. Like, and you work with pets. Like this is, I don't know, pets are just a great way for you to come back to yourself, to be present, which will help you with your health and wellness and help you sleep better at night as well.
Yes. And there is this whole idea of how well and how capable they are of healing, and they're not caught up in the whole, they don't go down the self-pity route. Animals, they adapt very, very easily to physical situations, I find. Ailments.
That's great. Yeah, because that's so great. We have all these roles, these hats, right, that we put on, the mammy, the career woman, the leader, the victim, all these different kind of roles that we play. And whereas an animal doesn't really have, an animal is whole and complete.
That's right. And they know they are, and they have this ability to know when, they are present, they're completely whole, and that's the way they live to that. To such a great extent. And truly a wonderful mirror to reflect upon, like to reflect off of, because they
Absolutely. One of the biggest things we do is we criticize ourselves, right? We're our own worst critics. We're our biggest critics, right? We wouldn't talk to other people the way we talk to ourselves, right? And animals don't have any of that. So animals don't judge themselves, they don't complain, right? We don't want to be around someone who complains all day long. It drains our energy. This is why animals fill us up all the time. Animals never drain our energy, unless they're a little puppy and eating your furniture. Like mine. But
or they're a
generally,
bit
look,
or they're a
but
big
puppies,
puppy, or they're a big puppy
yeah.
eating your furniture.
Yeah, but they're
And
going through a process. They're a big child, as babies, but they get trained. This is why you need to have boundaries. And then, and they do, animals do learn, and they do learn your rules, your house rules, whatever. And then inside of that, then who they're being is just perfect. It's absolutely perfect. There's no judgments, there's no complaining, they don't whine and all of this, and they're childlike, they're childlike, which is just, it's so much fun, Jan.
it is. And it's so interesting that animals, as self-sufficient in so many ways as they are, and they're really good at self-care, that whole element of self-care, there is this huge tendency and want for connection. Like they want that, and whether that bond be with you or that bond be with other animals, they thrive off of that sort of camaraderie, that community oriented, that family dynamic.
Yeah, they do. They need company. Oh my God, you couldn't leave a pet on its own for any length of time. They absolutely need company. And even with our cat, right? What I love about our cat is we can go off. Like I'd often go off, especially the weekends. I'll go off for the whole day walking, or I'll do something. Right? I'll be out of the house doing something. I love the outdoors and nature, but I can let my cat go off and do his hunting or whatever he does. You wouldn't let a dog loose. You can't let a dog loose in the neighborhood, right? You'll get a ticket or a fine or whatever. But you can do that with a cat, and he's not lonely. Like there's loads of cats around here, and I often see my little kitty cat playing with other cats as well, which is great. He doesn't get into fights. Well, I'm sure there may be, territorial or whatever, but mostly I see him playing. So that's his company, so he's happy, we're happy.
Right. Well, this has been so much fun, and we're so happy you joined us today. And so if you have any sleep questions, you can reach out to Joanne, and I'm sure she'd love to chat with you. And in the meantime, we hope that you'll be back to listen. And if you have any pet questions, feel free to connect with me, and we're wishing you the greatest day.
Thanks, Jan. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You've been listening to Pets, People, Life, and Longevity, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can catch every episode at exvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, and wherever you find podcasts.
talk.